So we get the question a lot about whether or not you're allowed to hunt inside deer fences on game lands. The answer is absolutely allowed, and we encourage it.
Deer exclosure fence is a tool that we use to keep deer out of young stands that we're trying to regenerate. This fence that you see behind me here is an example of what one looks like. It's made of woven wire fencing, about 7 to 8 feet tall, and it just prevents deer from getting into these stands and eating the young forest that we're trying to grow.
What we're looking to solve with putting up a deer fence is a lack of habitat creation. In other places in this area where we don't have a fence up like this, there is no understory developing at all because the deer overbrowsing pressure is so high. The regeneration of the next forest is so important both right now in the immediate future and for the next century, because what it happens right now is it gives you structure, it gives you food, it gives you cover for wildlife for the next 10 to 15 years, and then it'll develop into larger and larger trees as time goes on. If we have overbrowsing and we lose those desirable species to deer pressure, that next stand won't have trees like oaks or cherry or maple or any of those beneficial species to wildlife forever. Once that seed source is gone and they don't get a chance to grow, we don't get the forests that we're used to seeing that are good for wildlife for the next 100 years.
Most foresters for the Pennsylvania Game Commission are also hunters and understand how deer move in the environments that they live in. Typically they'll want to use drainages and thick areas of cover when they're moving, so we'll prevent putting fences up most of the time in those places that are going to restrict movement. We also consider the size of deer fences. Don't want to go too large in certain areas. And we also space them out to leave those travel corridors in between them.
The length of the fences up will depend on a couple of factors. The species composition in the area that we're trying to grow is one of the biggest factors at play. Oak forests take longer to grow and to regenerate than like a northern hardwood forest dominated by cherry and maple. So on the short end with the hardwood stands, we'd like to have them down in 5 or 6 years at times, but it's not unheard of to have a fence up for longer than 10 years because we have to wait until that regeneration inside the fence gets up above deer browse height so that we know it'll make it, and then we can take the fence down.
If a hunter sees tracks or signs of deer inside these fences, we encourage them to go in there and try to shoot the deer because it will really help speed up the process of regenerating these stands, because if you have a couple deer inside a fence, they can have significant damage to the young trees that are growing in there. As a hunter myself, I understand that deer fences can be challenging, but in the long term, the benefit greatly outweighs the short-term impact that a deer fence has on the game lands. And we just have to remember it's limited in time and space, and just trying to use these fences to our advantage while they're up, and then seeing the benefit that they provide long term for centuries to come is what's important.